Robert Redford was one of the greatest names in modern Hollywood. The 89-year-old actor died early this morning at his home in Utah. That's according to...
Robert Redford was a name that defined an era. For more than half a century, he represented Hollywood at its most polished and adventurous, an actor and filmmaker who managed to be both matinee idol and serious storyteller. Early this morning, the news that no one wanted to hear arrived like a quiet thunderclap. Robert Redford, the 89-year-old icon of modern cinema, died peacefully at his home in Utah, according to a statement released by his longtime publicist. The announcement rippled through Los Angeles, New York, London, anywhere people still believed in the magic of the movies. Hollywood has always thrived on legends. Some leave behind more than films. They leave behind whispers, rivalries, and stories that refuse to fade even when the curtain finally falls. Redford's passing shocked the world, but the echoes that followed were louder than the tributes. Behind the polished smile and golden image, he was a man who carried grudges that never fully healed, a figure shaped as much by private tensions as public triumphs. One name stands out, a star equally powerful and unforgettable, someone many believed would never pay final respects to Redford. What history kept these two towering figures so far apart, even in the final hours? That question lingers as the industry mourns, a reminder that fame rarely erases the complexities of a life fully lived. When the news of Redford's passing broke on September 16, 2025, the entertainment world paused in collective reflection. Colleagues, fans, and younger filmmakers who had grown up in his shadow shared memories, each story a testament to how profoundly he shaped American cinema. From the windswept grandeur of Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid to the political intrigue of All the President's Men, Redford had become synonymous with a certain intelligent, understated heroism, yet in his final years, he lived with a quietness that contrasted with his cinematic legacy. Long before his death, Redford had already begun retreating from the relentless public gaze. Friends describe a man at peace with his achievements, but also fiercely protective of his privacy. His days were slower, measured by the rhythms of mountain life rather than box office returns. Those closest to him say the transition was deliberate. After decades of public adoration, he wanted the freedom to savor family moments, to walk among the aspen trees of Utah without the flash of cameras. The grandeur of his career made the intimacy of his later life all the more striking, a reminder that even the brightest stars seek quiet skies when the spotlight dims. The turning point came 7 years before his death. In 2018, while promoting The Old Man and the Gun, Redford finally said aloud what he had hinted at for years. The film would mark the end of his acting career. The choice of role felt like destiny. He played an aging bank robber who simply could not stop pursuing the thrill of his lifelong passion. Audiences recognized the metaphor immediately, an artist reflecting on his own refusal to quit until the story was complete. In interviews, Redford spoke candidly about aging and the natural need to slow down. "I figure now, as I'm getting into my 80s, it's maybe time to move toward retirement and spend more time with my wife and family," he told the Associated Press. The statement was both ordinary and profound. Here was a man who had scaled every creative peak, choosing, at last, the everyday joy of loved ones over the endless chase for new roles. Critics and fans responded with admiration. The film became more than entertainment. It was a farewell letter, a gentle bow after decades of applause. Many in Hollywood understood the significance. Redford wasn't just stepping back. He was closing a chapter with grace. Despite the retirement announcement, Redford wasn't quite finished. In 2019, he appeared for a brief but memorable cameo in Avengers: Endgame, reprising the role of Alexander Pierce, a character he had introduced in Captain America, the Winter Soldier. The decision surprised many who knew him as a champion of character-driven dramas rather than blockbuster spectacle. But Redford had a reason. He was intrigued by the cutting-edge technology shaping the Marvel Universe. The Russo brothers, directors of Endgame, later revealed that Redford confided that day of filming would be his last day of acting ever. That short scene, tucked amid a cosmic battle of superheroes, became a symbolic closing of an extraordinary film career. It was a fitting paradox, a legend of classic cinema, choosing a final curtain call inside the most modern franchise imaginable. For audiences, it felt like a respectful nod to the future of filmmaking, even as one of its greatest figures stepped away. In the years that followed, Redford's focus shifted entirely to the landscapes and causes he cherished. In 2020, he sold his beloved horse ranch in Utah, a property he had owned for decades. The sale allowed him to concentrate on his home in Provo Canyon and the surrounding Sundance property, places intertwined with his identity far beyond his acting resume. Utah was never just a residence. It was a vision. There, Redford built the Sundance Institute and the Sundance Film Festival, a haven for independent filmmakers and storytellers seeking authentic voices outside the studio system. Countless careers owe their start to the doors he opened. Even as he withdrew from acting, he continued to nurture this creative ecosystem, mentoring young artists and advocating for environmental causes that matched his deep love for nature. Family members describe these years as some of his happiest. He spent long afternoons walking wooded trails, painting, and sharing quiet dinners with loved ones. The man who once commanded red carpets now found fulfillment in the rustle of leaves and the laughter of grandchildren. Robert Redford's final chapter was not about fading glory, but about intentional peace. Surrounded by family and the wild beauty of Utah, he embodied the balance so many in Hollywood seek, but rarely find. His life story is a reminder that fame is fleeting, but purpose endures. The rivalries and unspoken tensions that once fueled gossip remain part of his legend, though perhaps they matter less now. What lingers is the breadth of his contribution: actor, director, environmentalist, champion of independent cinema. As the industry and his admirers around the globe say goodbye, the questions teased by old feuds may never find answers, and maybe that is how Redford preferred it. A man who gave the world unforgettable stories while keeping a few of his own forever private. The curtain falls, but the echoes of his artistry and quiet strength will continue to shape the screen for generations. Robert Redford's reach extended far beyond his own screen time. Directors such as Catherine Bigelow, Quentin Tarantino, and Ava DuVernay have all credited Sundance as the launchpad that gave them the confidence to pursue bold, unconventional storytelling. In interviews over the years, emerging filmmakers often described their first trip to the Sundance Film Festival as a revelation, a place where risk was celebrated and originality valued more than budget or fame. Redford's belief in the power of independent voices reshaped the industry's understanding of what cinema could be. Before Sundance became a global brand, independent films rarely enjoyed the distribution opportunities they do today. By championing those projects and providing them a stage, Redford helped alter the economics of filmmaking, giving rise to a generation of directors who might otherwise have been silenced by the studio system. While audiences knew him as an actor and director, Redford was equally passionate about protecting the natural world. From the 1970s onward, he supported environmental initiatives ranging from clean water legislation to renewable energy campaigns. He lobbied Congress, produced documentaries on climate change, and used his fame to draw attention to causes often ignored by mainstream politics. Friends recall that his activism was never for show. Long before environmentalism became fashionable, Redford was donating time and resources, insisting that the landscapes of the American West, the very mountains and rivers he loved, were worth defending. His legacy as an environmentalist may prove as enduring as any of his films, inspiring countless activists to link art and advocacy. Despite global fame, Redford maintained a fiercely private personal life. He married Lola Van Wagenen in 1958, and together they raised 4 children before divorcing in 1985. Later, he found lasting companionship with painter Sabeel Sagars, marrying her in 2009. Friends describe him as deeply devoted to his family, though his relationships were occasionally tested by the demands of a high-profile career. The loss of his infant son Scott in 1959 and the death of his daughter Amy in 2020 were profound tragedies that shaped his quiet resilience. Those who knew him say these experiences gave Redford a profound empathy that informed the emotional depth of his performances. Over the decades, Redford received nearly every major accolade in film. He won the Academy Award for Best Director for Ordinary People, 1980, and received an honorary Oscar in 2002 recognizing his contributions to cinema and independent film. Beyond the Oscars, he collected Golden Globes, BAFTAs, and a Presidential Medal of Freedom in 2016. Yet he often shrugged off trophies, viewing them as milestones rather than destinations. "The work is what lasts," he once said, a sentiment that perfectly captured his belief that art matters more than applause. Today, as fans revisit his classic films and emerging artists trace their opportunities back to Sundance, Redford's influence feels more alive than ever. He proved that an actor could be a visionary, a director, a conservationist, and a builder of institutions without losing authenticity. The man who began as a California kid with a love for sketching and baseball became an international emblem of thoughtful stardom. In every frame he left behind, and in every filmmaker who found a voice through his support, Robert Redford's presence endures, a reminder that a life well lived can be both luminous and quietly profound. Before the fame, Charles Robert Redford Jr. was a kid from Santa Monica with a love for sketching in the open air. Born August 18, 1936, to a working-class family, he spent hours exploring the California coastline and developed a fascination with both art and baseball. A scholarship to the University of Colorado allowed him to pitch for the baseball team, but wanderlust pulled stronger than the classroom. After a short stint traveling through Europe, Redford returned home with a broader worldview and a determination to study painting in New York, where acting classes soon captured his attention. These restless early years seeded the curiosity and independence that later defined his career. Redford's path to stardom was gradual, marked by guest spots on 1950s television dramas and steady work in theater. His breakout came with the 1963 Broadway hit Barefoot in the Park, followed by a sparkling film adaptation in 1967. Hollywood truly embraced him with Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, 1969, opposite Paul Newman, a film that redefined the buddy outlaw genre and etched Redford's charismatic image into popular culture. Soon after, The Sting, 1973, and The Way We Were, 1973, cemented him as both box office draw and critical favorite. Never content with acting alone, Redford stepped behind the camera to direct Ordinary People, 1980. The quiet, devastating family drama earned 4 Academy Awards, including Best Director for Redford's debut effort, a rare feat. He continued to direct thoughtful, character-driven films such as A River Runs Through It, 1992, and Quiz Show, 1994, proving his storytelling talents were as strong as his on-screen presence. Beyond environmentalism, Redford championed arts education and Native American rights. He funded scholarships for aspiring filmmakers, supported public lands conservation programs, and worked with organizations promoting indigenous storytelling. Colleagues often recall how he quietly financed projects that otherwise might never have been made, insisting that diverse voices deserved the same opportunities he once sought. International film festivals, from Cannes to Venice, regularly honored Redford for lifetime achievement. In 2016, France awarded him the prestigious Légion d'honneur, acknowledging his dual impact on art and activism. These tributes underscored his rare ability to bridge Hollywood glamour with global cultural significance. After his passing, memorial screenings illuminated theaters worldwide. Younger actors spoke of how his quiet mentorship shaped their craft. Environmental groups credited his decades of advocacy for key policy wins. Social media filled with scenes from The Natural and Jeremiah Johnson, proof that his characters still resonate across generations. Film historians predict that Redford's blend of star power, integrity, and vision will continue to influence cinema for decades, inspiring storytellers to chase authenticity over spectacle. Redford's performances were often described as effortlessly natural, but colleagues knew how much discipline went into that apparent ease. He approached every role with meticulous preparation, studying character histories and subtle physical cues. Directors frequently remarked on his instinct for understatement, an ability to let silence and a glance carry more weight than pages of dialogue. From the quiet resilience of Jeremiah Johnson to the measured tension of All the President's Men, Redford demonstrated that minimalism could be magnetic, influencing generations of actors who favored authenticity over theatrics. The rise of streaming platforms and boutique production companies owes a quiet debt to Redford's Sundance model. By proving that independent films could achieve both artistic acclaim and commercial viability, he set the template for today's diverse storytelling landscape. Many producers cite the Sundance marketplace as the first true incubator for the kinds of daring narratives now common on streaming services. Without Redford's early insistence that small stories matter, the global film industry might look far less varied today. Redford's appeal extended well beyond cinema. Fashion editors lauded his timeless style, rugged yet refined. Outdoor enthusiasts admired his devotion to conservation. Even political commentators noted how he navigated fame without surrendering his privacy, creating a model for celebrities seeking to balance public life and personal values. His image became shorthand for an American ideal, independent, principled, and quietly charismatic. Long before acting, Redford loved painting and sketching, a passion he maintained throughout his life. Friends often recall seeing canvases in his Utah studio depicting mountain vistas and vivid western skies. Though he rarely exhibited his art publicly, the creative outlet provided solace and a different kind of storytelling, one expressed in color and texture rather than dialogue. Even as his public appearances dwindled, Redford remained a dedicated mentor. Through Sundance labs and private workshops, he offered guidance to emerging directors, cinematographers, and writers. Participants often described these sessions as transformative. Redford listened intently, asked probing questions, and encouraged them to trust their instincts. Many credit those encounters as pivotal moments in their artistic growth. Perhaps Redford's greatest gift lies in the lessons his life imparts, that a career can evolve without chasing trends, that fame can coexist with integrity, and that purpose extends far beyond professional success. His story invites reflection on how to balance ambition with authenticity, and how to leave a mark on the world without losing oneself in the process. Before the bright lights of Hollywood, Redford honed his craft on the stage. New York's theater scene in the late 1950s shaped his discipline and versatility. Productions such as The Highest Tree and Barefoot in the Park demanded timing, stamina, and the ability to connect with live audiences, a foundation he credited for the subtle realism of his film performances. Colleagues from those early days recall his focus and quiet ambition, traits that never left him even as his fame grew. Few partnerships in film history rival that of Redford and Paul Newman. Their chemistry in Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid and The Sting transcended the screen, forging a lifelong friendship built on mutual respect and playful rivalry. Together they redefined the buddy film, proving that charm and wit could be as thrilling as gunfights and chase scenes. Friends often recalled their off-camera camaraderie, from shared practical jokes to spirited debates about acting and politics. Though famously private, Redford never shied from civic involvement. He supported environmental legislation, campaigned for candidates who championed conservation, and produced documentaries tackling social issues like corruption and press freedom. He believed art could illuminate politics without partisanship, encouraging audiences to think critically rather than telling them what to think. Redford lent his voice and resources to international causes, from clean water initiatives in Africa to climate awareness campaigns in Europe and Asia. He quietly funded relief efforts after natural disasters, preferring action to publicity. Friends say he believed compassion was a responsibility, not a headline. In the days following his passing, tributes from collaborators painted a portrait of humility and generosity. Actors spoke of his calming presence on set. Directors remembered his ability to distill complex ideas into a single, wise sentence. Family members described a man who valued listening over speaking, who found joy in small moments, a hike at dawn, a shared meal, a grandchild's laughter. Redford's life reminds us that greatness is measured not only in awards or box office receipts, but in the quiet integrity with which one moves through the world. His story is a call to cherish nature, nurture creativity, and remain curious no matter the years. As the credits roll on his extraordinary life, audiences everywhere carry forward the lesson that art, like the wilderness he loved, endures when it speaks to the human spirit. Robert Redford's filmography reads like a timeline of American cinema from the late 1960s onward. His earliest screen credits, small television roles on shows such as Maverick and The Twilight Zone, hinted at the understated presence that would later captivate audiences. But it was Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, 1969, that exploded him onto the global stage, pairing him with Paul Newman in a film that redefined the buddy outlaw dynamic. The 1970s cemented Redford's versatility. Jeremiah Johnson, 1972, showcased his quiet physicality as a mountain man seeking solitude, while The Candidate, 1972, explored the cynical realities of American politics. Then came The Way We Were, 1973, and The Sting, 1973, two wildly different films that together proved he could inhabit both sweeping romance and clever caper with equal grace. By the 1980s, Redford was equally compelling behind the camera. Ordinary People, 1980, his directorial debut, won 4 Oscars, including Best Director. Acting roles remained strong. Brubaker, 1980, The Natural, 1984, and Out of Africa, 1985, all deepened his reputation for layered human performances. Later decades brought projects as varied as the political thriller Sneakers, 1992, the lyrical A River Runs Through It, 1992 as director, and the emotionally charged Quiz Show, 1994. Even as blockbusters dominated theaters, Redford gravitated toward character-driven stories, culminating in the meditative All Is Lost, 2013, where he carried nearly the entire film without a co-star. His cameo in Avengers Endgame, 2019, served as a graceful cinematic curtain call, an unexpected but fitting finale to a body of work that spans every genre and generation. Redford's creative ambitions were never limited to acting. As a producer, he consistently sought out projects that challenged convention and gave new voices a platform. He co-founded Wildwood Enterprises in the 1960s, which helped finance films with distinct artistic perspectives. His passion for nurturing storytellers reached full expression with the Sundance Institute, founded in 1981. Through workshops, labs, and the now world-famous Sundance Film Festival, Redford created a space where filmmakers could experiment free from the pressures of the studio system. Many directors who now shape global cinema, Steven Soderbergh, Ava DuVernay, Damien Chazelle, first gained traction at Sundance. As a producer, Redford championed documentaries addressing climate change, Native American rights, and political transparency. He was less interested in profit than in impact, often reminding colleagues that stories change culture before laws do. His producing legacy is as influential as his acting career, proving that real power in Hollywood lies in amplifying other voices. Though renowned for film, Redford's artistic roots began in painting and design. As a young man wandering through Europe, he absorbed the works of Impressionists and American realists alike. He often cited painters like Edward Hopper for their quiet mood and attention to light, qualities mirrored in the visual style of his own films. In cinema, he drew inspiration from European auteurs such as Ingmar Bergman and Federico Fellini, whose contemplative pacing and focus on character psychology left a lasting imprint. From American directors, he admired Elia Kazan for his actor-centered storytelling and George Roy Hill, with whom he collaborated memorably on Butch Cassidy and The Sting. These influences fostered Redford's signature aesthetic: natural light, patient camera work, and an emphasis on authentic emotion over spectacle. Whether painting a canvas in his Utah studio or framing a shot behind the camera, Redford sought the same goal: capturing the quiet truths of human experience. From his first breakout in Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, to his contemplative later roles, Robert Redford experienced a critical journey as complex as his filmography. In the late 1960s and early 1970s, reviewers often emphasized his movie star looks, calling him the golden boy of Hollywood. While that charisma brought audiences to theaters, it occasionally led critics to underestimate the subtle intelligence of performances such as The Candidate or Jeremiah Johnson. By the 1980s, as Redford moved behind the camera, critical perception shifted. Ordinary people earned him an Academy Award for Best Director, prompting critics to see him as more than a screen idol. Outlets like the New York Times praised his patient, character-driven direction and ability to draw nuanced performances from actors. In the 1990s and 2000s, Redford's willingness to take creative risks, whether helming Quiz Show or anchoring the near-silent All Is Lost, won admiration from a new generation of critics. Retrospective essays now frame him as a bridge between classic Hollywood storytelling and modern independent cinema. His career demonstrates how thoughtful choices and longevity can rewrite the critical narrative, turning a handsome star into an enduring auteur. Despite his image as a champion of natural landscapes and old-school craftsmanship, Redford was surprisingly open to technological innovation. In interviews, he often expressed curiosity about how digital tools could serve storytelling rather than replace it. At Sundance, he encouraged workshops on digital cinematography and streaming distribution long before such topics were fashionable. His own acting career reflected this openness. The cameo in Avengers Endgame wasn't just a sentimental farewell. He said he wanted to observe the cutting-edge visual effects and massive production pipeline of the Marvel Universe. As a director and producer, he supported early experiments in digital editing and online festival screenings, recognizing that technology could democratize filmmaking. Redford remained cautious about over-reliance on spectacle, reminding young filmmakers that technology is a brush, not the painting. Still, his willingness to adapt ensured that Sundance and his own creative projects stayed relevant in an era when audiences consumed stories on phones as readily as in theaters. Redford believed deeply in the power of education to shape future storytellers. Beyond Sundance's intensive labs for screenwriters, directors, and composers, he quietly funded scholarships at several universities, including programs for Native American and underrepresented filmmakers. The Sundance Institute became a de facto graduate school for independent cinema. Participants recall how Redford often attended early readings or rehearsals, offering thoughtful questions rather than directives. His presence signaled to students that their work mattered. He also partnered with environmental education initiatives, sponsoring fellowships for young scientists and documentary makers exploring climate change and conservation. For Redford, education was not limited to film technique. It was about cultivating curiosity and social responsibility. This commitment means his influence will continue in the work of countless artists and activists trained under programs he helped build.